What's up, nerds? Welcome to Cool Nerd Show. As always, I'm Steve Trezza.
And I'm Devin Burke.
And we've got our movie review for you. It is X-Men Apocalypse.
Really? I didn't know with all these pop figures there.
So, we're going to keep it kind of spoiler-free for a little bit, and then we were going to get into some spoilers. So,
nearing the end.
Devin, if you were to sum up X-Men Apocalypse in one word, what would it be?
All right.
Mine would be misused.
Ooh, that's stronger.
Anyway, overall, without spoiling anything, what did you think of the movie?
I had a fun time watching it. It was a tad long because there was a few times where I looked at my phone and said, like, this is still going.
2.5 hours, I believe.
Yeah, but yet it didn't really feel like that. Like, it kept going in a pace, and I didn't... It went in a pace where I'm like, yeah, I'm looking at my phone because I'm like, I've been here for a while, but yet I'm still entertained in the movie because it didn't really, like... There wasn't really a stop process where it was a boring part because I always felt entertained in each section they were in. I was always paying attention.
Now, the movie was entertaining, but if you know the X-Men, and if you're a fan of the X-Men, I don't really think it's very true to the X-Men, and I had a lot of gripes with this movie.
I call it nitpicking.
And yeah, you can call it whatever you want. We'll get into that in the spoiler part. But it kind of falls not as bad as the worst X-Men movies, but slightly above it.
Well, I'm not considering this one of the worst. I just feel
I didn't think it was absolutely god-awful.
You said misused.
I definitely misused, but that doesn't mean it was absolutely god-awful. It was just not good, in my opinion.
How you not?
It was okay. It was slightly below okay. Anyway, let's get into, we're going to talk about what we always talk about. We got story and writing.
Yes.
We've got acting. We've got directing, special effects. And then we'll talk more about what we actually like, didn't like, and then finally give it a grade. So let's get right into it. This is, forewarning, this is where we're going to start talking about spoilers. The story behind X-Men Apocalypse. So the story, we're in ancient Egypt. It kicks off to give us the backstory of Apocalypse. He's the first mutant ever, and it looks like he's betrayed by some of his Egyptian followers, and they kind of collapse the pyramid on him. All of a sudden, Moira McTaggart unearths him, and then he realizes he wakes up in the future, and he bands together his four horsemen.
The 80s future.
The 80s future, yeah. Which they didn't take advantage of the 80s. But anyway, he bands together his horsemen and starts taking over the world. What did you think of the story?
That part of the story, I did feel like it was pretty weak. When it came to Apocalypse, you know how everyone's saying, like, oh, he looks like Ivan Ooze from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie? Not only does he actually still look like him...
There are parts in the movie when I was like, oh, Ivan Ooze.
No, but there's even, believe it or not, like, even his origin story is the same way. Ivan Ooze has been underground for many centuries until all of a sudden a bunch of older people come up and find him and dig him up. It's literally the same exact way, almost. The only difference is like, oh, the X-Men, where's my autograph book? I was almost waiting for that line, honestly, but luckily it didn't happen. But the other half of the story is actually following around Magneto.
Yeah, I guess.
felt like that was more the bigger emphasis on the picture, actually. We get to see what his life has been since Days of Future Past. That's the one where he tried to kill all of humanity.
Yeah.
And you see him like actually living a normal life. He's working in a welding factory, of course. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And he has
a family. I thought, writing-wise, that was interesting. The story as a whole, it took so long for them to get to the end part with Apocalypse, and when they showed him like building everything up, and it was just like, it dragged. It almost dragged in the way that Batman vs Superman dragged, where it just took a long time to get where it wanted to go, and it was like, just get there already. Like, oh, too much. They tried to explain way too much, and it just like, to me, it makes me feel like the studio is treating its audience as we're idiots because they need to explain everything to us.
Well, you see, I think the movie could have been shorter if they actually didn't do a certain cameo scene. So you probably would have got what you wanted, but then you wouldn't have gotten one of your favorite scenes.
In my opinion, that was one of the best scenes.
But yet, we didn't need it, if you think about it.
Didn't need it.
If you haven't noticed, like, why we've been talking about the other X-Men, such as Charles or Beast or any of the newer people that are taking on the road, such as Cyclops or Jean, it's because they really didn't get enough screen time.
Like, it was more about Apocalypse and Apocalypse building up his Four Horsemen
and Magneto's story.
That
was mostly the main parts of the movie. Like, but I wish they would have focused on which the title is, which is the X-Men, especially since you're
recast. It's X-Men Apocalypse.
But X-Men's first.
Yeah. Hands down, the best actor in the movie is Michael Fassbender's Magneto.
Yes.
Best. That's just because he's a great actor. James McAvoy as Professor Xavier. He's still a good actor, but he didn't really it wasn't really focused on him when it should have been. Jennifer Lawrence looks like she doesn't even want to be here anymore.
You get that feeling. Also, you don't really see that much mystique in her anymore. She's just more
Jennifer Lawrence.
But we got that from the last movie too, so I'm not feeling as much as...
The thing is, they shove her out there because she's Jennifer Lawrence, and they're just like, Jennifer Lawrence gets screen time because everyone loves her. In First Class, it made sense that she wasn't as mystique as much because she was ashamed of who she was.
And in Days of Future Past, it kind of makes more sense because she's doing her own, her own justice type of way, like trying to be good but also doing evil ways in it. In this, she's just full-blown goody two-shoes.
She's just, in this, she's just herself. She's not in blue form. She doesn't, I think she changes into someone else like once or twice maybe. It's just Jennifer Lawrence in there, and it doesn't make any sense. Mystique is not a good guy. She's a bad guy. She's always been like an anti-hero type bad guy, and they just completely switch her around in this. And then at the end of the movie, she's leading the X-Men.
Yeah,
when she can't even be in her human form. And this is what I hate about the studio. We only see Beast in his blue Beast form at the end, and we only see Mystique in her blue form at the end. And it's because the actors don't want to put makeup on and sit through X amount of hours of makeup. And so they just kind of write this caveat in here as to they're just human, and they give it like a one-line dialogue thing, which is fucking stupid. It's a fucking Hollywood movie. You're getting paid millions of dollars. I understand it sucks, but you know what? You signed the fucking contract, so make the movie the way it should be made. Don't be just in your human form and write an excuse for it.
Remember, we're talking about actors here.
I know. And this is part of their job as actors.
Even though I said before, like how like the minor cast, such as Cyclops and everybody, didn't get much screen roles, I actually like them a lot better. Well, not a lot better, but I find them okay compared to the ones we saw in the previous X-Men series.
Oh, I disagree.
No, this Cyclops actually has some acting capabilities.
I thought the Cyclops we saw in X-Men. He only really was in the first X-Men movie.
Exactly, because in X2 he was captured,
and in X3 he dies.
Yeah.
But in X-Men 1, I thought he did a great job.
He was just a normal person. Like, he had a monotone acting. He didn't do much. At least with this one, he showed his brother's relationship with each other. We saw,
he was like a punk. He wasn't like a leader.
At least because he's a kid. He's literally in high school. You're a punk in high school.
And I love Sophie Turner, but I thought her Jean Grey could have been a lot better.
I thought her Jean Grey was okay in the beginning, but when it came time for her to use her powers, there wasn't enough like acting for her powers. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't see like her straining or anything. And some people are gonna be like, oh, like I said, we're in kind of like spoiler parts here a little bit, but she becomes Phoenix for a little bit. But even when she does that,
help defeat Apocalypse. Yeah.
Even when she does become that, you don't really see like she's in pain or like using a lot of force. You just see her as like,
or that it's taking control of her.
You just see her as majestic.
Yeah.
It's just, you don't, her act, I know she can act. We all know she can act. Yeah. But I don't know why or rather the direction of it for her was just very monotone.
And Nightcrawler was good.
Nightcrawler was good.
I'll give that. Nightcrawler was good. Devin, what did you think of the overall direction of the movie?
I think the direction of the movie was just clearly just to make another sequel. And that's all it really was. Like, this just felt like a speed bump rather than like... Apocalypse really should have been like the finale of X-Men, I felt like.
Yeah, and he should have fought more and used more of his... Like, actually used more of his powers rather than, again...
He only used half.
Giant bubble, walk. That's it. We saw
he...
One of the best parts of the movie, or best fights in the movie, was like the mind battle.
Which you saw in the trailers a few times. Him getting bigger and crushing Charles.
Yeah.
It's not even a spoiler. People see that in the trailers so many times.
But like, why not have him get bigger in the actual finale?
Yeah, which he can do.
And have him turn his hands into like weapons and actually fight all of the X-Men as they're like fighting a giant apocalypse. Why not that?
Not only that, but he can also, he does enhance other X-Men's power, but he can also take away X-Men's powers in a lot of variations.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there are times where you could just been like, and that would have been it.
There's a part in the storyline in the comics where he can absorb energy. Cyclops exhausted his power, so he lost his power because he used all of his optic blast to shoot Apocalypse. Like, not saying that we needed to see that, but I'm just saying
that's how powerful he could have been.
He is.
But I just felt like the direction they wanted to, they just made him just a B-list villain, kind of like with Whiplash in Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
Just really gone out of the way so we can make the next movie.
Exactly. And I don't know. And the whole, like, you have this great story with Magneto, but then it falls flat at the end because they're just like, they just kind of walk up to him and are just like, oh, Eric, I know that what side I chose. What side are you going to choose? After he killed billions of people, and he's just like, oh, all right, I'll be on your side. And then sides with them, and then there's no repercussions.
Well,
for him killing billions of people.
I still like to go by the whole, like, Apocalypse took him when he was, like, extremely weak in his life. He manipulated him into doing what he made Eric believe, which was the right way.
Still killed millions of people.
No, I'm still saying that's still awful, but he was going to be a villain either way, and eventually even be, like, the X-Men's, like,
I just feel like it was forced. It was definitely a forced.
It was 100% forced.
A lot of the movie was forced. It was just to make a movie, I feel like.
For a PG-13 film, this was the most rated R PG-13 film I've ever seen. Especially when you get to see a lot of blood, a lot of people dying, like, in horrific matters. I'm surprised he even got
There was a lot of people getting crushed by, like, giant stones in ancient Egypt.
There's even a scene where Apocalypse just puts people in cement. Like, a whole bunch of people in cement. And you just see, like, they're spazzing out arms and legs and limbs. It's pretty disturbing. And I'm like... And I remember going to Trezza, like, this is PG-13, right? I'm making sure in this, because it was pretty heavily graphic.
It was. The effects were good. I mean, for the most part, they were good.
Yeah, but probably the best of the effects would have to be used for Quicksilver again.
Which, if you saw Days of Future Past, they recreated it.
But I think this one was better, though. Like, you had, like, the more funny, artsy way.
Yeah.
This was more of, they took, like, an 80s song, and they just went like, all right, if we're going to go full out, let's go full out. And they went full out with this one when it came to Quicksilver's slow motion, fast motion scene.
It was cheap and reused, but I enjoyed it.
Exactly.
I'll give it that. I still liked it.
It's just like a fart joke. Yeah. Sometimes a fart is funny, but then there's that one that's like, all right, that one's a bit funnier.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought that for the most part, the effects were good. I have no gripes about that.
I have no gripes with the effects.
If you were to give X-Men Apocalypse a grade from 1 to 10, what would you give it?
If I give it between 1 and 10, I did want to at first give it a C grade, like a 7, but now I think of like a lot more of the plot holes. I'm just gonna go just a tiny bit down and just go and give it a 6.5. It's still a decent movie to see, and I definitely recommend seeing it, especially for the Quicksilver scene. And definitely to see Michael Fassbender act as Magneto, because that's definitely probably the best we're going to see as a character playing Magneto.
Yeah. Well, and he's done such a great job in the other two movies.
Yes, but I think this particular one, I think this was his best acting.
I thought First Class he was better.
Nah, I'm saying for him to act like he lost a wife and child, that is an acting you don't see much.
I'm going to give it a 6. I thought that it was... Yeah. I thought it could have been a lot better than it really fell short for me.
Hey, better than the next 3.
That's because we round up here. That's a 6-3. So overall 6-3. Please let us know what you thought about X-Men Apocalypse. Give us your grade and why in the comments below. And we'll see you guys on all of our other segments. Please like, favorite, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you over there. For more nerd videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media. the way that X-Men always has plot holes in their movies, pisses me off. At the end of Days of Future Past, we see Mystique disguised as Stryker take Wolverine at the very end of the movie, and they just don't touch upon it. It's just gone. They don't touch upon it at all in this movie.
I think they just looked at their notes, literally looked at the.
It seems lazy to me. Like they're just like, we'll just figure something else out. And they do it in every movie. Also in Days of Future Past, when the whole Xavier thing, the whole Magneto lost his powers in X3, they're just like, whatever. And they don't explain it. And another thing that happened in X-Men Days of Future Past, it just goes to show you that Fox just doesn't give a shit about canon. In the Wolverine movie, which takes place directly before the future part of Days of Future Past, Wolverine lost his adamantium claws. In Days of Future Past, in the future, he still has his adamantium claws, and they don't even explain it. I would have taken, okay, Magneto gave him his claws back or whatever. Not a single line of dialogue. They don't explain anything in any of the X-Men movies, but yet they take the time to go into this elaborate story that's forced, and they force these story points in because they don't think the audience is going to get it. It's just awful. It's terrible writing. Give the X-Men back to Marvel.